Here we go, and we're live. Good morning and welcome to Small Business Chat. Nearly forgot the name of my own show there. I just wanted to say we have a guest. Welcome to Laurence Sarno from Mia Bazo. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're live on YouTube at the moment, and I just wanted to say, if you're a regular of the show, we usually have our Karen with us, but she's unable to make it this morning. She sends her apologies. So I will be representing. So we wanted to get to know you, Laurence, and we're so excited to have you here. So thank you. Welcome for coming and welcome and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. We're really excited to be talking about this subject today.
Yeah, we honestly are so inspired by businesses that just want to do good, and it's something that Karen and I have a shared passion for, especially with like small businesses. You don't have to be big to be great to start. You have to really take those small steps now. There's loads of things you could be doing as a small business, and whilst a lot of our chats have been quite tactical and practical, this for me was part inspirational, always trying to be educational, but definitely inspirational about your company's journey. So perhaps you could tell us a little about, if you could introduce yourself and introduce us to Mia Bazo and how you could support small businesses and business owners.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm Laurence Sarno. I am a co-founder of Mia Bazo. Our founder, John Scott, started a business in 2010 called Voyage Manager. And Voyage Manager was designed and is still a premier solution for very large organizations for dealing with all of the risks associated with travel. Okay, so that would be tax compliance, which is a very big problem, visa compliance, visa and immigration compliance, and also the travel security aspect, keeping travelers safe when they're away from home. And part of that is travel tracking. So knowing where everybody is at all times. But the problem for John, was that this was only for very, very large organizations. And the other problem for John is that like me, he's a really, really confirmed, just tad obsessed environmentalist. And so here he was, his whole life was about travel risk management, which was just pumping tons and tons of CO2 into the air every day. So a few years ago, John had the notion to, actually, let's go back even further. 9 years ago, John thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could help these businesses, these large organizations that I'm dealing with, what if I could help them mitigate their climate impact? Well, 9 years ago, the organizations just weren't interested. His customers just weren't interested. So when John decided a few years ago that he was going to create a self-service sort of mass market platform for the same kinds of services that he'd been offering, and make it specifically targeted for individuals and for small to medium-sized enterprises. And so that was the idea for Mia Bazo. And during the first lockdown, John built it. Then he brought me on board at the beginning of this year. And we're pretty excited. We launched the company on Friday, the 1st of October, so that was wonderful. But the thing that made him the most happy is now, as we're launching Mia Bazo, the interest in the climate impact service that we offer is suddenly skyrocketing. And what we've been finding is that individual, like, the category digital nomad.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so, and we would all like to be one, wouldn't we, Christelle?
Love that laptop on the beach in Bali. Of course I would.
Absolutely. So, so for digital nomads, they have chosen the style of life that they have because they want to work in beautiful locations, and because all of their work is remote and online, they can do that. And of course, they want those beautiful places to stay beautiful. So we find that our individual customers are very, very committed to the environment. And there's another important thing that's changing in the business environment right now, which is that a lot of corporations are now demanding that their suppliers demonstrate how they are mitigating climate impact. So even if you personally don't care about the environment, right? If one of your biggest customers says, show me what you're doing for climate impact, if you can't demonstrate that, like, well, we're not going to buy from you. um, and there are also beginning to be stirrings in the insurance industry, that within a few years you'll have to demonstrate how you're engaging with your climate impact in order to be insured.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is all going excitingly well. I mean, it's terrifically sad that 9 years ago clients weren't interested. But in any case, so um, the way we do the climate impact service at Mia Bazo is that we allow you to, we have a calculator. It's a really, really advanced calculator. It basically uses all of the publicly available data in the world. And it allows you to calculate the carbon footprint of any of the vehicles that you or your company own, any of the properties that you or your company own. And also importantly, and this is kind of a first, is we can calculate any form of travel. So, if you take a taxi from your house to the station and take the station, take the train from, in my case, Cambridge Station to King's Cross, and then we have to take I don't know, cross the street and go to St. Pancras, and then take the Eurostar to Belgium, all of that. Or if I had been taking, we're going to Heathrow and taking a flight, you can segment by segment, you can calculate the carbon footprint of all of your travel. And because of our travel tracking services, we know when each of those segments is taking place, because you'll get a little boop on your phone, and it'll say, are you getting on flight 237 to Manhattan? Yes, I am, that kind of thing. And so it's a start. In other words, we measure utility usage. That's how we get the properties, right? But for instance, we're never going to be in the business of like tracking the carbon footprint of the food you buy, because that's based on how it was grown and how it got to your table. We'll never be in the business of tracking the carbon emissions of the clothing you wear, that kind of thing. But just knowing the carbon footprint of your vehicles and your properties and your travel is a huge step forward. But you and I were talking about greenwashing.
Yes.
And so what we allow people to do, what we feel is a very, very basic first step, is from inside the Mia Bazo app, you can purchase carbon offset. Okay. Now, carbon offset is a bit controversial. Okay. Because, so for instance, the carbon offset that you can purchase through Mia Bazo right now is all verified tree planting projects.
Right.
Okay. Now, tree planting is good, but it's not as utterly fabulous, save the world, as actually either direct air capture. In other words, taking carbon from the air, removing. In other words, what most of us are doing when we buy carbon offset is we're just contributing a little bit to making sure the situation doesn't get worse. Okay, but on a larger scale, there's direct air capture, which is capturing carbon from the air, and in most cases, pumping it into the ground. In a lot of cases, pumping it to where fossil fuels used to be.
Right.
Okay, so that's just sequestration. That's just putting it somewhere it can't harm us, or actually harm the planet.
Right.
But then there's also this thing called carbon capture, usage, and storage. So a lot of manufacturing plants now are actually capturing the carbon before it's emitted in the air, the carbon emitted by their manufacturing processes, capturing it before it gets into the atmosphere, and then either storing it, as we've just talked about, or more interestingly, using it to make building materials. So the cement industry is far ahead of most industries in doing this. Um, so what's exciting about all this is that, you know, fairly soon, because a lot of these programs are in are really on the small scale, or kind of, or even still in proof of concept.
Yes, I
Okay.
wouldn't have heard of it.
Yeah, exactly. So right now they're very, very expensive to buy carbon offset from them. Okay. So that's why at the moment, the only thing that you can, the only kind of offset you can purchase through Mia Bazo is tree planting.
Yes.
But next year we're going to start adding them as they sort of come online. And even if they're more expensive, I don't know. I mean, some of our customers may choose to purchase it even if it's more expensive.
Sure.
And of course, we're assuming that if as these operations scale up and the technology gets better, the assumption is, you know, as always, the price will come down.
Yeah.
But you know, these are the kinds of things we're promoting.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I think that for most of us, I've had some really interesting conversations, particularly during lockdown, just due to the technology. So I remember we were in Clubhouse listening to quite a few discussions about sustainability. And
Yeah,
I was really interested. I think because of the clients that I've worked on, I've obviously had more of an introduction, and then from my own personal choice,
yeah,
as a human, looking at what's going on in the world, and making those changes that I can do and manage
yes,
myself. But
yes.
you can feel so depressed,
I
really,
know.
about the state of everything. And
Yeah,
yeah, we do have this climate countdown, you know, this clock above
yes,
our heads as to when we need to really stop, you know, our behaviour. Well, we need to
yeah,
stop our behaviour now. We need to change our behaviour now. But we do
yeah,
have a ticking clock that we're up
yeah.
against, and it can feel so helpless. But to be able to have these innovative, like technologies, but also, like you say, this expertise, this knowledge as to what's the best way of doing it. And I think the problem from a marketing and PR perspective that I come and I often see, and as a consumer, we're often frustrated with, is that you think you're doing the right thing by investing in a company, and
Yeah,
then it turns out that they've just spun it in a certain way, or they haven't been transparent, and actually they're doing more damage than good. But what I
yeah,
love about your climate impact tool is that the fact that we have access to that data, we can calculate. You've got the calculate, publish, and offset, so you can see
yes,
it. And also the rise of organisations like B Corp, which we talked a lot on Small Business Chat. Actually, it's
yes.
a popular series of discussions. But you have these organisations now that are very much going to be looking at you in a way to try and monitor and establish how true you are being to your efforts.
Exactly. You mentioned something that I haven't mentioned so far, which is with Mia Bazo, you can not just, you can do the calculations, but you can make your live table. You can make it public. All right. So you can publish it on your own website. We have an API and a widget, or you can just share the link on Mia Bazo. You know, you can make your table public, and it's not a screenshot. You know, it's a table. It's basically, as the data come in, the you know, it updates itself. So at any moment you can send someone to that link, and it shows what your carbon footprint is as of that day, right? But one of the things that is the most important. Oh, and also, by the way, in January we're going to be implementing carbon reduction. So in other words, let's say you have to fly from Frankfurt to New York.
Mm.
Okay, so there may be a few ways of getting there. So you put in your, you know, so you'll be able to put in your departure and destination locations. And for instance, maybe there are two flights that you could take in the right time of day, and one of them is a 737, and one of them is a Dreamliner. Now, the Dreamliner is going to burn 30% less fuel. So we'll be, you know, you'll have the facility for knowing sort of the way you can emit the least amount of carbon. Um, for the trip. So so right now, as you say, we have calculate, publish, and offset, and we'll have reduction in the beginning of the year. So, but also, I think it's really important. I think what I'm really admiring about the organizations that are, the manufacturers who are looking at carbon capture and usage or storage is, in other words, they're actually stopping the carbon from being emitted into the atmosphere in the first place, right? In other words, they're converting their emissions into something useful, or at the least, they're sequestering it, they're storing it. Because we feel that if you're doing all of those things, if you're looking at, okay, well, this is the energy consumed by our properties. How can we lower that? This is the energy consumed by our vehicles. Well, how can we lower that? And I think and then of course manufacturers have the biggest responsibility, right? Because let's look at our manufacturing processes. How can we mitigate the impact of those? And so our feeling is that really it's going to have to be business globally that makes the major changes. We can't wait for our governments to do it for us.
No.
So yeah, exactly. So I this is what we're really excited about. So we figured we had to put our money where our mouth is, and so our offices have solar panels. Okay.
Oh wow, we're really talking.
Yeah. Right. And now recently we installed a heat pump, which takes its heat from the ground. So we're not burning gas or using electric to heat the property.
Yeah.
And of course, our one company vehicle is electric, which is powered from the solar panels on the roof.
Oh, this is amazing. So, of course, this petrol crisis has no impact on you right now. Great.
Right. But of course, we still have to travel.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're still, it's a real switch. Because I always thought, well, driving is the ecologically wrong thing to do. If we have to go into London, we should take the train, right? And then John pointed out, Laurence, we're taking the electric vehicle, and I went, oh, zero emissions, cool.
Well, again, this is all of the discussions that, again, if you're not somebody who sort of like overwhelmed. We're running our businesses, we're looking after our family, we're schooling, we're trying to juggle so many things, run a successful business even.
Exactly.
But I mean, we genuinely have so much to think about that we know that this is a problem. We know that this is something that we need to do, even if you're at the early stage of this this understanding and even of what you're trying to do. But it's very interesting because the question is, where does the responsibility lie? And I love the fact that you're saying that we've had years of knowing this, and we're looking at the powers that be and thinking this isn't actually moving at any point of the dial here. Like this isn't it's still disgusting in terms of what we're achieving. And who our biggest offenders are, and all of these elements to it. So I think what I've loved about businesses with purpose in all aspects, and again, very passionate about the sort of people, planet, profit, sort of triple bottom line approach, is that we're very committed in either providing the solutions or working with those companies that do. And I think that you are offering such a wonderful it's accessible, because I looked at the price as well. So it's the platform and the app. So the membership as well. When I think about it from a small business owner perspective, and like you say, we cannot get away from it. The deal of our dreams could be a flight away and make a massive impact on our businesses, which of course that knock-on effect of how we're putting back into our teams, our community, we can't ignore that. So
on the flight. I think, I mean, this is one of this is the major reason why we decided to make the climate impact service free.
Great.
Yes, so it's the one service that it's a free subscription if all you're using is the climate impact. Because what we want people to do, I mean, we're gonna, one of our next projects is to start working in our own community and start bringing local businesses on board to so that they can display their climate impact. So, and we're hoping that it'll make a it'll that it'll make them more attractive to their customers, whether they're a store or a restaurant or whatever, that it'll make them more attractive to their customers to know that this company is engaging with their climate impact. Yeah, so the only thing that costs anything for the climate impact is if you buy offset, of course.
Sure.
Because I mean, we will always have to buy um, carbon offset. We at Mia Bazo will always have to buy some carbon offset because we travel, and we can use our own services to make sure that we travel in the most efficient way within reason. Obviously, if I have to go to Edinburgh, I'm not going to walk. All right, I'm not going to bicycle. Okay, yeah. But I may make the choice to take the train instead of flying. That kind of thing. So I think just we're hoping that we will have a whole lot of people who just choose to use the climate impact because their businesses, they just don't travel that much, or or like a restaurant, almost nobody will travel for business for them. So so that's one of the most important things to us, is we just get as many people on board as possible, as many small businesses on board as possible within our region, and see how that goes, and then see where else we can take that.
I think
But
it's a great step.
Thank you. And actually, we're very lucky with Mia Bazo because the technology platform that it sits on was, John has been developing that since 2010. So I mean, they use the same databases, they use the same libraries. And so we can really focus just on innovation because we launched the company just a year after John started developing the platform. Yeah, well, actually, I'm sorry, it's about a year and a half after John started developing the platform. Because, so in other words, we didn't have to go for investment to fund the development. I mean, we had the product already, and Voyage Manager was bootstrapped, and now Mia Bazo has been bootstrapped. So really, we can just focus on innovation, which is why we were able to make the price so low. Okay, so
had that pressure from the parent, as in the sister company,
the sister company, exactly right. So so the most expensive subscription, and this is in US dollars, not pounds. Okay, the most expensive subscription is $14.99 a month, which is about 11 quid. Okay, and the least expensive is $4.99. So what's that, about £3.50 or something like that per month? Yeah. So I think that again, this was one of the reasons why we could make the climate impact service free. Because we had the technology already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started talking about okay, so we used to call it CSR, corporate social responsibility.
Yes. So funny enough, we've talked about that in previous shows, and if you've been watching, sort of the importance of it, but also how it's moved along, and how really I think things have moved along because we've become so much focused on businesses with purpose.
Yes.
Not one department anymore. It really should be the purpose and the values of the company throughout, and it's interdispersed amongst your teams, your communities, all of that. So is CSR dead? I mean, when you look at some of those CSR departments in terms of what they're doing with local charities, they're trying to have that point of contact as to who it is that's managing all of this. But the same with travel. And managing all of that from the platform. Who is it that does that? Like, it's not, is it a CSR person? Is it, who does that? It's probably the business owner, right?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting. So that's why a lot of companies and organizations are beginning to use the term ESG, right? Which stands for environmental, social, and governance. And yes, it's got to be top down. It absolutely has to be top down because, okay, so for the travel aspect, all right, like the duty of care aspect for your employees, that usually falls under HR, okay? But it's not the travel, but the HR isn't the one who's booking isn't the travel booker in the company, and the travel booker, gets to make decisions about how people fly and whatnot. So it really does have to be pervasive throughout the company. And also, so John and I are getting more and more involved in ESG overall, because although we're both passionate about the environment, John is the really radical environmentalist, and I'm the S. I'm all about productive workplaces. I'm all about communication and respect and diversity and all that. So yeah, so this is another place we're going with this. But I think you're absolutely right, because unless it's box ticking, it has to be a top-down exercise. Environmentally sound, a great place to work where people are valued and heard and they can grow their careers. And of course, in terms of governance, transparency and accountability. So yeah, there is no, I mean, you can have a person who's responsible for ESG at your company, but there are touch points absolutely in every department. And yeah, we feel pretty passionately about that as well. So yeah, but I agree with you, Christelle, you can't isolate it. It's just got to be what the company stands for overall. And of course, the larger the company gets, you have to work harder to maintain the mission and the vision. And, the more staff you have, the more people who have to be on board with this,
Well, we've seen that, haven't we? I mean, I totally understand John's frustration. Like 10 years ago, I remember when I started my own business, I was just like, well, from a business perspective, probably the S, it's just, don't be a douche. Like, it's just,
exactly.
Have to be like this, and we can work collaboratively. We can see that there's something bigger than just us. We can put back in a way that is productive to help those issues. That I feel like business for good is something, the term that we've heard over the years, but that hasn't been 10 years ago, that we were laughed at still.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought when I was working all those years in high tech, either on the East Coast of the United States or in Silicon Valley, I thought corporations were a bit toxic there. Yeah. And then I moved to the UK. And in terms of the S, in terms of the social aspect, oh my God, I heard managers, executives talking to staff in a way that no one should talk to anyone. I mean, outside of EastEnders or something, but I mean, and we hope that's not real. I mean, seriously, I could not believe what I was seeing. Yeah. And also I was rather appalled by the lack of diversity as well. In technology. I mean, in Silicon Valley, I mean, most organizations, because people come there from all over, from India, from China, from all kinds of other Asian countries, and they come there to get their degree, and they love Silicon Valley, and they stay. Yeah. And so the average engineering organization in Silicon Valley is about, some of them are minority majority. Yeah. In other words, they're the non-white population is often greater than the white population. So we have a long way to go in the UK. We really do.
But I mean, it's just a testament. Like again, it's taken. I'm really excited for you because I do feel even during lockdown, I think a lot of people, when the world stopped, saw how nature was fighting back. And
Yes.
I think for a lot of us, we were wondering what are we doing this for? Like actually, this traveling is bad on
Yeah.
us, And
Yes.
actually, a lot of people that would have heard about travel for the environment and now
Yeah.
thinking, well, actually, tech is here. I don't have to jump on a plane to have that hour meeting in Germany or France. I can
Yeah.
actually have a really effective Zoom meeting, or we can do things far more efficiently. It really has taken. I mean, obviously, it's a horrible thing to go through, and again, my heart goes out to the travel industry because Karen and I both worked in it, and we're watching, and we're feeling for our colleagues and seeing how important it is to travel. But one of the things that we had discussed on an earlier show was slow travel and how you can have employers that are more respective, like they respect more that we might be wanting to do more slow travel and include that into the holiday allowance, things like that we could be doing as businesses. But like you say, it's making sure that we are transparent, we are doing the best that we can do. And actually, like you said, I love the fact we need to talk about it because we need to set the standards and we're going to attract
Yes.
those other people. Again,
Yes.
I had a discussion, didn't we? Karen is the reason that I am green conscious with my website. I didn't even know that hosting and website hosting and green credentials was a thing, but she's done her research. It's a service that she offers. She's very eco-conscious like that in terms of storage, data storage. I'm learning so much from her and her shows. So again, guys, you really have to follow Karen as well. But again, all of the people that she has on her show, we're always learning. And for me, one of the interesting conversations when we pre-promoted this on LinkedIn was people like, it doesn't apply to me because I'm not traveling. I'm not getting
Right.
on a plane. But you are getting it on a train. You have a
Yeah.
car. You
And
have
you have a car and you have a house and you have, yeah.
you have office space. Like let's track that.
Yeah.
And that, like you say, for a free impact tool, I think that just to show that you are conscious about it
Yeah.
and trying to monitor. I mean, I would love to have solar powered house and
I know. Well,
we will
there's
have
one
that
thing
within
I
our
forgot,
range.
but there's one thing I forgot to mention, Christelle, is that one of our beta customers for Mia Bazo is now thinking of giving every team in his company a travel budget, a carbon budget, not a financial budget, a carbon budget. And now that he has Mia Bazo, okay, then he can say to them, okay, your next, this quarter, your carbon budget is X. And then, okay, well, if you want to fly that 737 from Frankfurt to JFK, you can. Okay, but that's using up 70% of your carbon budget for the quarter. Do you really want to do that? That kind of. So, and John actually designed it to be gamified, so that you can,
Oh, so much more
so
interesting.
so you can compete. You've got two restaurants on Mill Road in Cambridge. They can compete with each other for who's got the lowest carbon footprint.
But also,
um,
that's wonderful, and also internally as well. Like again,
yeah,
the understanding that if you are an eco-conscious business, and so is your team, and if
yeah,
there is a team of you that are traveling. I mean, I love the fact of the community. Actually, I think that's
yeah.
brilliant. But yeah,
Community pressure.
community pressure. But I think that's the important thing. I think it's so easy to think it's not my problem.
Yeah,
Um, but it really is.
yeah,
I just, the phrase that I've heard so much is that we are custodians of this wonderful planet. We are
yes,
not, we don't own it. We are
right,
custodians of it. It's on borrowed time. And so
yeah,
how we leave that to future generations,
yeah.
it's just super important. And I think we have very serious work to do. But like you say, with the gamification, doesn't mean it
Yeah.
can't be fun.
So so it's really been wonderful to talk to you, Christelle, because
Thank you so much.
I love the questions that you asked, and I love the fact that there are increasingly so many small business people who are taking this responsibility seriously, and you're promoting it, and you and Karen are actively working to promote businesses that are greener. And I'm just really grateful that you invited me on today.
We are thrilled to have you on. You guys are such an inspiration, and seeing and identifying that problem and sticking through. A lot of people, when they're faced with challenges or different opinions, it's just because they're not quite ready for it. And
Yeah,
you stuck it through. You've always pushed forward because it's the right thing to do.
to do. Yeah,
Whether or not it's popular opinion, whatever. But
yeah.
I'm just so pleased that you've launched now. You're out of beta. You tested it. This is wonderful and fantastic achievement to you guys for turning it around so quickly as well. That year and a half
Wow.
of the idea to support businesses. I think you're absolute legends. So thank you so much, guys. If Laurence, if people wanted to, we put the links in the YouTube description. So we have the miabazo.com, which actually you didn't say. What does Mia Bazo stand for? Like what's
okay. Mia Bazo, it means my base in Esperanto. And Esperanto was a constructed language meant to be international. So that, in other words, at least if you speak a European language, the grammar is very, very easy to understand. And Esperanto in Esperanto means one who hopes. So my base, because we base everything in our lives around the Mia Bazo services. We use them in our daily lives, so they're sort of our hub or our base. And one who hopes, well, we hope we're making a contribution to climate impact.
You are indeed. So guys, jump on board. The website's there in the links. It's miabazo.com. Looking fancy, looking great. Well done to you and your team. Get on board with that climate impact tool. If it's the one thing that you're curious about, the team is there as well. And I've given your links to follow John as well, because I feel like the conversations you're going to be having, just follow these guys. So thank you so much for joining us again. We're absolutely thrilled to have you on here and introduce you to the community. And again, thank you for what you're doing. So
thank you for having us.
We'll be here next week with our next show. Until then, take care and leave any comments you like on the YouTube under the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Thank you. Bye.